Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the latest edition of the Quantum Compass with me, David.
And Bella, hi, welcome back.
Alrighty, so we are now entering into what could possibly be a pivotal wave spell, possibly the most important wave spell that we have experienced since the last one. No, all joking aside, we are now in the wave spell of the Golden Convergence timeline. And this timeline, as we've been talking about, is coming to its head on the 14th and 15th of October, which is really when this wave spell is covering. From the 6th to the 18th of October is the wave spell of the Yellow Magnetic Warrior. And in this wave spell, we have a full moon, we have a whole range of Venus activities, and of course, we have Atlas, and not just Atlas now, but Swan, and a number of other comets, and a number of Atlas's asteroids and probes, and everything else that seems to be appearing. So the sky is full, the situation is loaded, and we're going to do our best to give you the informational coordination points to help you navigate this with your own inner quantum compass.
And as usual, we'll start with Wavespell. We'll talk about the Mayan cosmology. Then we go into the astrology, including Atlas and what he's doing with the different planets. And then at the end of it, we'll give you some tips and ideas on what to do on the days of convergence, which many people in our tribe have been asking, like, what should we be doing? So we're going to talk about that towards the end of the episode today.
Right, so the remit of the Quantum Compass is every 2 weeks to give all of you beautiful people out there some sort of quantum coordination points that merges the Mayan dream spell calendar, the different time waves, universal time waves with astrology. We used to work with Western astrology, but now we're really mostly working with the true 13 sign sidereal astrology because we feel it's more representational of our soul's journey rather than perhaps our manifested 3D incarnational journey, which is somewhat slightly different, as many of you will know from watching us for a while now. So there's a lot going on, there's a lot to put into place, but we do believe that we are now into the golden convergence time. And as such, we want to give all of our brothers and sisters as many important pointers as we can to understand how to really get the best out of this. There is a lot of alternative narratives out there, maybe some true, maybe some not true, but really we're concentrating on how this feels energetically to us with the Atlas Free Eye. But as I've been doing on recent videos, really want to give a big shout out to our brothers from the Harmonic Factor, Ruben and Makua. They did a wonderful Galactic Spin podcast this week that many people have been watching. And like us, getting the really, really strong energetic hits, both of the calculations that the brother Ruben has brought through. And then they did an amazing interview with the physicist Dan Winter, who kind of then gave some kind of coloration to the whole process from a quantum physics point of view. And essentially, what I got from that video was that there is something very, very important about to happen, both from a timeline perspective and a quantum perspective, because as Ruben points out, the golden convergence of timelines is really five huge waves of energy or cycles of time, all collapsing in on themselves on the same day.
Yeah.
And it got us thinking about, well, what happens if five huge cycles of time all come to the end on one day? Those containers that those waves of energy we're operating in simply cease to exist and give rise to something new emerging.
And on top of that, we have Atlas and the swarm of the comets at the same time. So there are many points of convergence here. And the good news is that we will do a show with the guys to close the series on timeline to convergence. So expect that one.
Right. So the good news is that this golden convergence timeline holds up mathematically, and it also holds up from the point of view of quantum physics. And I think there's going to be more to come about all of this. So that's for those of you out there who need the numbers to make it feel real to you. It's there. Those of us out there who go more on visuals and intuition, I think we already had that anyway. And then Atlas Free Eye, as I joked with Zach, is here to sprinkle what we humorously called fairy dust, but probably really is upgraded DNA material that's going to help us upgrade. But at the same time, we also need to be ready to receive.
So talking about Zach, he gave us a spiritual perspective and the more 2060 perspective. And so from that, I highly recommend you guys to go and watch that video because he talks about the big, how this process of this convergence has been years in the making, that it's been planned for such a long time. And here we are, ready to do our quantum leap.
And I would suggest if you're sat here watching this video that you were also part of the plan. And so you also
Sure.
helped us and Zach and many other beings plan this whole mission into the Earth simulator, the Gaia simulator, all of which is now coming perhaps to a conclusion so that the real purpose of us being here was to learn how to be, I would say, cosmic humans, but really good leaders and good creators ourselves. So we're better to learn than in a creator sim, which is really what we're many of us starting to think that this existence in Earth is all about. It gets more weird, more esoteric, and that will probably appear on another show somewhere else on our platform in due course. But for now, I think it's time to get into the presentation.
Yeah, and what is really suitable is that all of this happens during the wave spell of the yellow magnetic warrior. And we'll go into that and the reasons why we need to awaken that part of ourselves right now. So let's go into the presentation,
Yeah, and of
Alex.
course, the other thing that we've been talking about, which is relevant, is the passage of Atlas in particular, really through the sign of Virgo in the 13 sign sidereal
We'll talk about that.
constellational astrology, and that's why we're focusing quite a bit on Venus in this particular presentation today. She has a lot of transits, but also we're really feeling now that Venus is the ruler of a much restored goddess in Virgo energy, and of course, Venus enters Virgo on the third day of this wave spell, so it's all connected. All right, let's have a look at the presentation that Bella's put together today.
Right, so here we have the wave spell of the yellow magnetic warrior, which runs from October 6th through the 18th. Before we get into the wave spell, I wanted to remind people here about the relevance of this moment when it comes to activating our DNA, which is one of the things that Zach emphasized. Our 13th strand of DNA is going to get activated as this convergence happens. And so in order to talk more about that, I wanted to put back this slide, which is about time and reality. So we've been talking about how artificial time hasn't allowed us to create the world and reality that we want for ourselves. And we know that we're multidimensional and that there are multiple realities, but it all depends on where we put our focus, our energy. So this is the moment. All of this wave spell is for all of us to be focused on what we really want to create out of this convergence. And our DNA actually is a liquid crystalline structure with piezoelectric properties, which convert physical pressure and sound to electrical energy. So we have electricity all through our bodies, and this electrical charge transmits information to all of our cells, to all of our body. And that's why it's so important, the words that we say, what we listen to, the news that we listen to, the information, who we talk to, because sound creates resonant frequencies and they can reprogram our genetic code. And so the idea now is to be super focused for this wave spell so we can clear any distortions and be able to activate our dormant potentials. So just think of ourselves as like a crystal radio where the DNA is the central tuning coil, which is constantly transducing the vibrations from the universe into this biological reality. So since we're made of plasma and that plasma potential is in our DNA, we want to make sure that that is part of our intention during this wave spell to bring back that life force energy we've been talking about. And the best way to do it is to be centered, focus, and bring what is in our heart, that passion, that life force that we can activate. Then all of the strands of DNA, which as I confirmed, it would be 13. Anything you want to add there?
Um, Only really just to again invite our audience into the space of remembrance that we are indeed eternal universal beings. And using Bella's analogy of the radio, the crystal set, we can, with little adjustments, re-attenuate our consciousness's attention and an intention or focus into a different frequency. Which is another way of saying in Lakesh. Now, I am another you because an aspect of each of us is each other, is the plants that we communicate with, is the planets that we communicate, is the stars that we communicate with, all of it.
It's the whole universe.
Yeah.
So the universe is inside of us, and we are part of the universe. So we're all one.
So one of the ideas that we've been sharing in recent weeks, and many people are now starting to concur within our tribe, but also we're seeing on other channels, is that some aspect of us, and we're not going to say exactly which bit, but some aspect of our consciousness is also on Atlas 3i. And it could be
Really?
that consciousness is our universal consciousness as opposed to our earthly consciousness. And this convergence could also be seen as those two coming together. Now, that's what I'm working with. I personally love that idea. It feels about on point. It fits with the profile, but have a feel into it yourself. See how does it feel for you? And if you feel that that is true, then what do you want to communicate with that part of yourself in both directions? What would you ask help for, or what would you suggest as help?
Right.
If that's what you need.
We'll talk a little bit more about Atlas further in the
Yeah.
presentation. But for now, let's do the Mayan part first, or the galactic part first. So it is a yellow year, the resonant seed year. It is the yellow castle, and it is a yellow wave spell. So there is a lot of yellow, which represents our connection to the earth, but also a point of harvest. And we're in the season of Virgo in the in the true constellational astrology. So what are we talking about here then with all of this amount of yellow? So the seed is reminding us that we have all of this potential we just talked about with the DNA, which is, and we're ready for that self-germination. It's a moment of gestation, and we're about to get into the creation point, which could bring lots of new ideas, seed manifestations. But more than anything, I think that this is the moment where you get to be and create much more. One of the things that Zach also shared with us is that after the convergence, you will have new ideas, new passions, and a new set of information and wisdom that will allow you to start creating. That we have completed the age of distraction, and we're going into a time of creation. And this is all connected to this year of the seed, the castle of the seed, and this process of the Wavespell as well.
So the way we could understand this is that we have been given a seed year to plant seeds for the new earth as Atlas passes through Virgo, the sign of new earth.
So, this is the third moon. It's called the electric moon. And I highlighted here, it's the day 25th and 26th of this moon, which in Gregorian would be October 14 and 15, when we're going to go through this process. And electricity or electric moon is what we've also been talking about. So that's why I wanted to start talking about how we generate electricity. And this is the perfect electric moon to be able to go through this moment of convergence. And did you want to say
I was just going to
something?
say, just on the platform, please do check out the Electric Moon of the Angels video, which just recently went out as a way of looking at the constellational stars. And if you've made it this far into the video, please do hit like and subscribe and share this video with your friends.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so let me go into the totem. The totem animal is a deer, and we talked about it in the past shows. So this one is more of a reminder that we want to go through this process by connecting to nature, showing more kindness to ourselves and to others around us, to trust our intuition, listen to that inner voice, and to be open and to be adaptable. There will be many changes. Part of the evolution is changes, and this is part of what we're going to experience. And it might look like it's a nightmare, but we know that at the end of every big cycle, there is destruction of certain things, there are big changes, and we want to go through it with grace and knowing that this is a moment of renewal, and be able to meditate on bringing peace into our lives and into every moment that we're going to experience from now on.
There's quite an interesting, significant point here as well, because, in this transitional period, we've switched over to the 13 sign sidereal astrology, but somehow, the majority of people are still with the Western astrology. And if you think about where Atlas is in the Western astrology, it's in Scorpio. And what is that the sign of? It's the sign of the destruction and the rising of the phoenix. But the phoenix cannot rise from the embers of what went before to ascend to the eagle and the dove without going through that process. And it's the same for us. If we're going to transition from an old matrix system to a new earth Gaia grid system with all of the bells and whistles that many of us perceive, then there has to be that alchemization process, and we shouldn't be afraid of it. We should be celebrating it, really. It can seem a little scary, perhaps, to some folks, but for many people who've done a lot of shamanic work, death and rebirth should be something fairly familiar. But this is the big death and rebirth moment, and the deer is here to help us guide through this process.
This is what we came to do basically in this incarnation, and that's what we're giving it the importance and relevance that it requires. So this moment, this electrical moon is telling us that we have some questions that we can meditate on. So we're going to go through many layers. We went through the layer of being the seed year. Now we're into the layer of the moon, or the month of the 13 days, sorry, the 28 days of this moon. And there are a couple of questions that are very useful here. One of them is, how does my creativity express my spiritual journey? And how can I best serve? Because it is the moon of service. Number 3, or the electrical tone, is always the tone of service. And it's a moon of electrical harmony, is what we want to bring and make sure that we bring with us into this quantum leap. Anything? Right, so let's go. We leave now the moon, the year, the moon, and we go into the soul kin, or the sacred round, where we're going to talk about the archetype, which is the yellow warrior. And this yellow warrior Wavespell is within the yellow castle. And so what we want to focus on is that we're about to complete a cycle within the soul kin, which is going to take us, once we complete this cycle and go through the convergence, we go to the green castle, where we integrate everything that has happened, and we're ready to create from that space of plasma, or the ether, right?
Yep.
So here we have the Wavespell running from kin 196 to kin 208. We start with the yellow warrior. There are 2 galactic activation portals, one on day 2, and the other one is going to be on day 8 with the blue knight. This Wavespell runs from the 6th through the 18th. And here we have the Wavespell. So there are quite a few things that we can connect here to this archetype. The main one, I would say, is fearlessness. We want to go through this process without any fear, even if they start pumping horrible things in the news and everywhere. We want to remain in a point of fearlessness, and we want to be able to connect to that part of us that helps us with the galactic connections, divine communication, with the cosmic consciousness, and with the interdimensional guides. So the fact that we have so many comets in our solar system right now is telling us that the conditions are there for us to be able to do all of this, to communicate with the higher aspects of ourselves that could be ancient and are part of what it's in Three-Eye Atlas. So this Wavespell, as every Wavespell, has some shadow, and the one to pay attention to is that of not trusting your inner guidance or feeling disempowered. And the way to transform all of this is to fully access that divine guidance through your higher self, through your guides, through the higher aspects of yourself, through connecting with nature, to be ready to leave the comfort zone. As I was mentioning before, we're going to go through many changes, personal or individual changes, but also in the systems and in everything that we're used to. So we want to be open and embrace the challenge and the changes, and see obstacles as opportunities where we can actually use our creativity and our energy to give form to what we want moving forward as New Earth. We also want to be able to question the information, use our discernment for these few weeks especially, confront and transcend any fears that are still there, use our intelligence and our mind, and trust that we have the answers inside of ourselves.
Right. So it's interesting to see how all of this correlates into the 3D reality that I think most of us perceive when we have our eyes open, because we have Atlas cruising by Mars, the planet of war, the god of war. Traditionally speaking, that is. I hope that Mars is going to have some of that transmuted. But if we think about that in the context of the yellow magnetic warrior and the global activation of all of that war energy, we can say it seems entirely appropriate that we're being given the opportunity to work with our own inner warrior, not to go on some goddamn crusade that somebody else has told us to go on or something, but really to ascertain with intelligence and questions, is what's being presented to me something I should ascribe my energy to, or say, actually, I'm not sure that I'm signing up to that. So I think it's an important question for all of us to use that intelligent questioning aspect of the warrior and to be fearless in our application of the answers that we hold as our truth.
Yeah, I agree with that. We need to be very discern every single, especially during this wave spell, is where we want to put the energy and the focus so we can make it through this convergence gateway. So with this wave spell, the first glyph is telling us define a purpose, and purpose should be with all of the things I just mentioned, with using our intelligence, to use our power, to be able to go through this convergence point and empower ourselves. The challenge is going to be connected to the earth, which is the second glyph. So here we want to think about it's a moment of evolution. What are the obstacles to our own evolution that are going to be presented here on the second day? The third glyph is the mirror and is the day of service. So what is it that we're going to have to mirror to others, or what projections are we going to receive? So we want to pay attention to every single day.
Actually, you know what, Bella, seeing as how we're on this slide, we're doing things slightly differently. Perhaps we'll just use this slide and the layout and the run through of the 13 days. We don't normally go into so much detail, but something.
No, that's why I'm doing it this
Yeah.
time, because it's a very important wave spell. So I thought I would give a little bit more on the wave spell. Normally, I just tell people,
Yeah.
follow these questions, which are really useful. But besides these questions, I want to add just a little bit more.
Right. So maybe I'm just going to pop on some overlays ahead of the astrology a bit later. So the first day of the wave spell is the full moon. And then on the day, which is the red lunar earth, this is when Venus really starts to get into her movements. And then we move to these 14th and 15th, the day of the yellow solar seed and the red planetary serpent. And we also have Venus in a really, really powerful trine with Uranus and Pluto to add to the harmonic factor, we could say, of this convergence. So, this is where reading into the crossweave of the wave spell, the castle, the year, but then going into the minutiae, like I do on the Daily Mind Shorts, to explain how a glyph fits in the flow of the 13 days, particularly in this very, very important one, with the added perspective of any stars or planets that are getting triggered, gives us a much deeper overview of the weave that's taking place and how to navigate it. So this is really how we try to navigate ourselves through each day with all of these coordinates.
Right. So I was here on day 3, which is a day of service and is connected to the glyph of the mirror. Then on day 4 is how do we give form to things, or how things take form. And that's the day of the storm. So could we expect a storm situation to be shown to us? Probably. So that's something to be discerning of. But also we can actually be the catalyzers, give form to a catalyzing energy. So every single energy we can use so that we can move forward and flow with the energy. Day 5 is with the yellow sun, and it's a day of radiance. It's a day that we can center and maybe connect with the sun. So we have the energy to move forwards and maybe activate our solar plexus to radiate from there. On day 6, we have the dragon. The red dragon on that day is telling us rebalance your energy, your masculine and feminine energy, so that we create and we move forward with this primordial energy. On day 7, we have the white wind, a day of communication. So we want to attune with the connection to spirit, but also communicate in a balanced and aligned way. On day 8, we have the blue night. So that one is telling us work with integrity, but also integrate everything that is happening this previous wave spell, so that we can go into the next day, which is the day of the yellow seed, the solar seed, that's the day, that's the 14th of October, the day that the portal begins. It's open for about 48 hours, and we want to make sure that we enter that space with the integrity and with all of the energy of being a cosmic seed, the potential we were talking about at the beginning.
Also, on these 2 days, it's the day of intention, the solar seed, and the day of manifestation, the planetary serpent. Both very, very important energies for creation, using Kundalini creation, spirit energy, and the seed, which, yeah, I mean, in many ways, you can also say this is creation happening right here.
And the way I'm reading the manifestation on this wave spell as we go through the convergence is that our life force energy gets activated as we connect with the energy of Atlas that is bringing a lot to us and awakening our DNA. We know that our DNA is in the form of a spiral, and we can visualize that the serpent energy, as I said in the first slide, we can activate all of that electric charge into our whole body and communicate it to the rest of our cellular matrix. And then we go into the day of liberation with the white wall bridger. It's a day to leave things behind, the old world behind, and jump into the new time. And then with day 12, it may be a day of healing for the collective. We may want to support a lot of people who may probably have any reaction or cognitive dissonance or whatever it is happening for those around us. And we finalize with the transcendence, with being present and connecting to the star, the energy of art, of creation, and even from the stars.
Right, thank you, Bella. Really good layout there. I'm just going to give a couple of the pointers on this, which you can then hold in your awareness. So Venus actually enters Virgo on day 3 with the mirror, which is interesting. The storm day is the red lunar Earth. It's a galactic activation portal. So in my mind, if I think about that from a catalyzation point of view, it tends to suggest something catalyzing happening on the Earth. Maybe we've had a lot of Earth activity recently and a lot of solar activity. So there may be something in that. The full moon is the first day, but we'll come to that later. And Pluto goes direct on the other gap day, which is also interesting, which is
Day 8.
Day 8 when we're integrating the Wavespell that we're currently recording in, which is the night. So that's also interesting then as we get to the end of the Wavespell, as the round out happens, of course, on day 12, the electric deer moon finishes. And on the last day of this Wavespell, the self-existing moon starts.
Mm-hmm.
So also something to consider there, really and truly, just on that, and there's more too, but there's a lot happening, and we can really perhaps start to read how this might play out by reading the glyphs in the synchronized order which they are presented, because that's really the story that this Wavespell wants to share with us, the story of the warrior at the time of the golden convergence.
And as usual, those questions can be useful, especially if you're new to the wave spells. They can help you focus. You can journal of them or do a reflection, a daily reflection on those.
It's kind of like a checklist. Yeah.
I also wanted to add the more galactic perspective when it comes to this archetype, and is the galactic guide. This energy is helping us with the connection, the return path to the stars, and how appropriate now that we have all of these comets and 3i Atlas. It's also reconnecting us to that cosmic consciousness, and is reminding us to trust that divine guidance that we all have inside of us. So this is a moment where we're going to jump into becoming cosmic humans or galactic citizens, however you want to call it. Once we remember that we all have that part inside of ourselves and we're ready to do the jump, what are the changes that need to happen in our life so that we get to that point? The yellow water is like the spider in that web of consciousness where everything is interconnected, and we can we can connect with it through divine communication, through connecting to that part of ourselves that is our higher self or inner divine self, however you want to call it. And so we want to use this power. I also wanted to mention Malin here, which is very helpful now. Malin allows us to connect to all of our light centers, to all of the 7 chakras, and it helps us harness that energy there. So it may be useful to work with Malin, since we're activating our spine and that central axis of ourselves.
Yes, that's really, really important. And of course, Mullin is also the embodiment of Excalibur, the sword of light, very much Michael, Archangel Michael's warrior. We can say tool, but also that of the warrior here. But Mullin also has another important aspect to it, which is really important, that it's connected to the crown chakra. And the crown chakra, if disconnected, really says that we're disconnected from the divine spark of the cosmos.
Mhm.
And there are many things that have happened over the last few years that were designed to disconnect us at the crown chakra level. And if you've been following our shows for a while, you probably have an idea what we're talking about. So this is actually, Mullin is not the plant of this waste, but we have another one. But Bella brought this into our awareness, and I would agree that Mullin is another good plant to work in harmony with the one that we're going to share later.
Mhm.
As much as anything, it has many medicinal healing qualities, but at an energetic level, it calls on that staff or sword of light to charge up our central channel, our own staff of light, but most of all to connect us to the cosmos through our crown chakra.
And what better than the power of love, like that energy that we feel inside of us? Like, think about when you feel love for nature, love for your children, love for your hobbies or what you love to do. Use all of that power of love as an electrical current to serve the light and to create the new earth for the highest good of all of us. And also, I want us to remember that the Christ consciousness grid is active, and it has been active for quite a few months now. And we are going to connect more and more to that grid, that Christ energy into the world.
Right, and just to again amplify the electrical energy, this is the electric deer moon. The deer is very, very connected to being in service and healing, and it's as myself and Leslie talked about yesterday, it also relates to the angels. So you can call on both the energy of the deer and the angels in your work if you want to charge your current with healing electrical energy.
Beautiful. So that's it for that part of the Mayan cosmology, we can call it. And now we want to talk about the actual convergence. And it's a moment of transcendence into the new age, into the new era. Is that golden convergence of timelines, as Ruben explained it really well in that first video we did. There are a series of points that converge at this moment. And we can see here October 14 and 15. And here at the bottom, we can see that is day 25 and 26 of this moon, and it falls on kin 204 and kin 205, which we talked about, that they were the solar seed and also the planetary serpent energies. So very important days. We're going to give some tips at the end of things that we think could be done during these 2 days. But for now, start putting it into your awareness, maybe set aside some time for yourself where you can actually start to connect with this very important moment, because it is a unique moment in humanity's history, something that has been planned for eons, and only now we get to see all of the different points that are correlated and connected to that very important thing. And one of them is the ancient count from the Mayan. The long count date is going to reset to 13-0-13-0-0. That long count day on October 14 is telling us ready for the reset. And the reset was always going to happen with number 13. Anything else? That day falls on day 4, San 4 or for a how, which is in the cosmology of the Mayan mythology. It's a day for the beginning of new cycles, the end and the beginning of new cycles. So there are many synchronicities. Here is just a few of them, but there are so many synchronicities for this portal.
Right, the one that we both had actually, our eyes on for quite a while, and you can, of course, go into the deep dive that me and Bella did in the Mayan Time and Magic course. But this one, the 440 3 years since the 1582 Gregorian calendar situation, is really, really important because that was 10 days that were removed. And we were just contemplating this, and it's just an invitation for you to just saying, how do you remove 10 days from history? Do you just literally write them on a piece of paper? Did something happen during those 10 days that has been deleted from history that we have no memory of? And how does all of that relate to this process that we're in now? Many people might, with some intuition, have an idea what we're talking about, because it may be that something happened in those 10 days that we don't know about and maybe needs to be illuminated for us all so that we can come to that place of timeline convergence and all of the things of the past now come into our illumination in one moment so we can all move forwards. That's to me what all of these timeline convergences feel like, all of these moments in time collapsing on themselves at the same moment for new cycles to start and perhaps even to repair some of the damage.
And here we want to remember that Atlas and the comets are a very important factor that are part of all of this, since the day that that the comet, or it's not a comet really, we'll talk about where it is in a minute, but 3i Atlas, it gets really close to the Earth around the time of the solstice in December. So it correlates to many other things, like, for example, the day that the Mayan calendar ended in 2012, and that solstice now is coming to 13 years if we count Gregorian years. That's yet another synchronicity that come into place with that. So let's talk about Atlas. You were saying that it was a what? What did you call it?
I've called it many things. I'm not sure which one you're referring to exactly. It's not a comet, that's for sure. I think Atlas 3i is asking many of us to sit and contemplate what it could be, either in a nefarious form or in a higher octave form. And according to what we settle on, the choice point, it could be here to elevate us, or if you listen to some narratives, it could be here to invade. We prefer the first option because it's much more uplifting and it fits with the profile. But just to be aware, to use our discernment, our questioning, and our intelligence, like the warrior prescribes, to listen to the different options and say which one resonates with you, which one feels more expansive, more uplifting, and which one is not one you want to sign up to. Because it's important. And if, as I said earlier, we are universal beings, many of us are starting to perceive that 3i Atlas is carrying some of our universal consciousness and probably many other things, technologies and timeline repairs and who knows what, on this organic, some people are calling it an organic spaceship. I would probably concur with that from my own meditational experiences. Would love to hear other people's comments. Please do share if you've been communicating with Atlas. Many people think that's complete hogwash and they're going completely by Never a Straight Answers videos that they put out. And I think it's good to be discerning, like Bella, with all of this. But you put some stuff here. So how are you picturing
Yes,
this?
first of all, I had the feeling that it was connected to the Lyrans. So I asked Zach if he was connected to the Lyran beings. And it feels like it's a conglomerate. There are many different beings that are connected to these. We could call it a pod, a plasma pod, or a multi-layer plasma vessel, which is encoded with quantum energy. We could even call it an arc if we want to.
Yes.
So it's like an arc with lots of information, lots of memories, lots of intelligence and energy that is activating us and activating the higher timeline for us, and the aspects of our DNA that are part of a divine blueprint. So that's what I'm feeling is still part of what is happening. And the other thing I feel is that the way it is connecting to the planets in our solar system also has a mission. So the first connection, once it entered Virgo in September, around September 21st, the first conjunction is with Mars, which is happening now, between now, today, and tomorrow. And I feel that that is the first place of connection because the masculine energy in the solar system and actually in the galaxy, we've been living in a young galaxy where the energy of the divine feminine was removed. And then the energy of the masculine was manipulated, distorted, converted into war, competition, hierarchy, and all of the things that we know have been wrong with the way we've been living for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So I think it comes to do that repair work first in Mars, so we can realign with the true energy of the masculine. A masculine energy in balance is one that is here to protect life, to protect the energy, to protect creation. And then it moves on to connection to the sun. And I feel that there is where it charges the energy into the sun, so that when we receive the solar flares, we get all of these codes of energy more in a more balanced way. And then it goes to connect with Venus in November. where I feel that the energy of the feminine then it's added to all of that. And then we come to a point of more balance of masculine and feminine for the whole solar system. And the fact that Atlas is coming in contact with the Sun and Venus while they are in the area of Spica, which is part of the Virgo constellation, it also tells me that is with the help of the angelic beings that are in charge of protecting the destiny of humanity.
So just a couple of things maybe to add to that. I find it fascinating that this is really happening mostly now in what the Western astrology would say a Scorpio season is, but now in the sidereal is now Virgo, which is more about the goddess. So I really sense a transitional switch, not just for us as people, particularly those of us who've got strong Scorpio placements or even Libra placements actually as well, to now be reverted to our true selves, which is more organic, more with the earth, which is very interesting because the lunar day is the earth. So there's something that I just got to go back a second, please, Bella. So technically, in the old world, we would be entering the process when Three Eye Atlas comes closest to the sun on Samhain, which is a cross-quarter fire festival in the Celtic world, which denotes the end of autumn and the beginning really into the deep dive of winter. But it's also really the point in the whole year where the liminal space of the energy is at its thinnest. It's where the realms between the so-called living and the so-called dead are closest to each other. And there are many things to say about this because it feels like a lot of that is about to somehow collapse on itself. The reality is about to change. And so I find that fascinating. This is happening at what would traditionally be Samhain season, but now that we're shifting into Virgo, it doesn't have quite the same impetus. And of course, many of you out there watching, as we know from previous videos, have strong Scorpio placements. So this is going to affect anybody who does, which is pretty much everybody, I think, from the last 3 generations, whether you have Pluto, as some generations do, or you have Neptune, or maybe you have other planets from other generations. Everybody has that energy to convert. And it seems to me we're being invited to let go of the underworld to return to the goddess.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we feel with everything we've kind of been tuning into and listening to Zach and a few other people that feel have truth in their information, that it is an ancient signal that is awakening, and it comes to awaken and to help us open the path, that gateway, that portal. And when we talk about the more scientific side, so yes, it has been becoming bigger, brighter with a green glow. Apparently, it's traveling at 60 kilometers per second and increasing in speed. What?
Sorry, you finished. I just had a thought in relation to the warrior in the Knights of the Round Table.
Also, it has a green comma, which is over 500,000 kilometers. It has an anti-tail, which defies all physics, and because it points towards the sun. It's also been unpredictable. The scientists haven't been able to kind of track the trajectory exactly how they thought they could model it. But what I'm feeling personally is that it's a messenger of light, and it's a gift from the universe that is here now to help us unlock very ancient planetary vaults and memories, templates and blueprints, and to restore the grid. We have been living under a grid that has been connected to the artificial matrix, which is time and everything that we talked about for a long time. So because our mind has been trapped in this construct of artificial time, and even the astrology is also off. And because now we're in the moment of evolution, even astrology, we're in the moment of evolution for astrology. The comets are showing us, look at where we're pointing you. This is actually the path of the true astrology. If you don't pay attention to the true astrology, you don't know exactly where Atlas is getting activated, what planets, what houses, what part of your chart. So to me, this is absolutely part of the evolution of astrology. It's making us look at the true sky and making sure that we actually pay attention, because it is carrying photonic templates which are being released, and we want to know where this is happening in our chart. That's why I think that many of the people in our tribe made the switch from being Scorpio to being Virgo, which is where all of this process is happening for many of us.
So just if you can hold on that, a couple of things I'd like to share that have just come. So, first of all, anyone who's done a meditation or a journey, a shamanic journey to connect with the consciousness of free eye, please do share in the comments what you may have experienced, because we've had our own experiences and we're also tracking other channels to see what theirs are. And we're seeing a unified picture starting to appear. So I'll just share briefly what I saw when I connected to it, which really builds on what Bella's shared. But I'll just give a couple more visuals because somehow something has just come into my awareness of what you've just said that might be an interesting route for those of you out there to also deep dive into and perhaps report back. So when I asked to connect to the consciousness of Atlas and to receive whatever was appropriate from Atlas, I essentially saw what looked like a malleable sort of rock, but sort of slightly leathery. And, you know, I don't necessarily completely believe the visuals. They're sometimes indicative to a greater understanding, which I'm now feel I'm getting. But what struck me was that as I went in closer to look at it, a big eye opened, and the eye was something aquatic, something between a fish and a whale. Wasn't a fish, and it wasn't a whale. We even checked this with Zach also, and he confirmed those.
No.
He said it wasn't a whale conch. It was something much bigger and older from the universe, way beyond the stellar nations
We
understanding.
haven't been in contact with
At
before.
least that not that's in our awareness. Now, it got me thinking, it's like, okay, it doesn't really matter to me whether it is either of those things. But what my guide said to me, the deeper understanding is that this has some sort of, we can say, cosmological aquatic connection. Not necessarily that it's water-based, because that's not true, because it's in space. But now I'm thinking that this could have been from an aquatic world that we don't see anymore with the original blueprints of planet Earth on it, which makes me think of Tiamat. And this may be an ancient piece of our own planet that disappeared off on some trajectory as that exploded. And it periodically comes through our part of the universe with the codes of the original blueprint of the goddess, which is Tiamat. That's just come to me in this moment. It might be complete hogwash, but it sort of resonates with me on a number of levels. The other thing that I became aware of when I connected to the to Atlas is this sense. So many people are sensing this now too, that some aspect of me was on Atlas, which is how I was able to communicate with it. One of the things that we've been talking about in recent weeks is this idea of the Knights of the Round Table that Bella and Leslie identified with the star Proserpine. You can go back and watch the episode of that. And it felt to me as that was being activated by a Mercury Kazemi just a couple of months ago, that this idea of the Knights of the Round Table is it's not a fairy story or a Disney movie or even just simply the Arthurian Grails. It's actually an energetic template system based, we can say, on the knights or the warriors carrying certain virtues or qualities. So there are some other threads here. Maybe he needs a little bit more investigation, inviting all of you to sit into those and meditate into them. And if you find anything, please share in our tribe or on the comments section here. So there is a lot of potentiality. There are a lot of threads, and there are many people downloading similar but sometimes slightly different information. Maybe it's correct, maybe it's incorrect. This is how we as the collective use our intelligence and the questioning abilities of the warrior to come to the truth that suits each and every one of us, but also hopefully as a collective.
Yes, I think the recommendation is for each one of us to tune into it and see how you feel connected to it and what it awakens in you. It does feel like it's an encoded emissary body arc vessel, which is carrying the pulses from a primordial template that we've had in Earth, and that it's coming back to shift us into the next part of our evolution.
And also, it's come from the galactic center. So it feels like it's been sent as an emissary or it passes through the galactic center on its way back to us, picking up codes. Because this being, this object, if you're very reductionist, has been all over the universe and has seen many things, has experienced many energies, all of which, like us as humans, it absorbs on its journeys and processes and integrates. And it's seen things that us humans can't even contemplate. So I am thinking that this is, like many people have said, it's a huge repository of information, of DNA, of galactic consciousness, of other intergalactic beings, all housed in this incredibly unique, very, very ancient organic life that turns out to look like a rock, but could be something else entirely. So it's a mystery. It's beautiful. It allows us all to expand into our imagination, but it also potentially carries the keys and codes to the convergence and the reconfiguration of this reality.
Beautiful. So the other thing I wanted to show here is this is from the Sky Live website. You can go into it. I drew these blue lines so that you have an idea of what the ecliptic line is. You can see here Mars, Mercury, the Sun, Venus here. And this here is the constellation of Virgo. And look at the amount of clusters and galaxies that it has. Apparently, it has over 1,000 galaxies. So to me, it's like a cosmic womb, and is where all of this connection of Atlas with Mars, Atlas with the Sun, Atlas with Venus is going to happen. So I think it's very symbolic that is the Virgo constellation, the only feminine figure in the whole zodiac. It's the one that is getting this cosmic activation. And so this is the sky for the 6th of October. And you can see also the amount of other comets. Swan is over here in the area of Libra. This is K1 Atlas. This is Stereo. I didn't catch Lemon, which is somewhere else here. And then
I just had a thought, right? So if Venus enters Virgo from this far end,
from here, look, it's
Yeah.
coming from Leo and it's moving into Virgo here.
right? So it's Venus is entering Virgo on the opposite end of the constellation on, as we just said, on the 8th of October, so day 3 of this Wavespell. Conversely, on the opposite end of the constellation, Atlas is entering at pretty much exactly the same moment that Venus is entering
Yeah.
Virgo from the opposite end, which
You
is
can see it here in
next couple of days.
You can see it here in Stellarium. It's real clear. So the conjunction with Mars is on the 3rd of October, the closest conjunction. And by the 6th, it will have moved a little bit more. And Venus will be entering Virgo around the 8th of October. So yes, they're going to come into a point of conjunction very soon. And here in the sky, you can also see Jupiter is still here in the area of Gemini. So the new astrology, the true constellational astrology requires us to look at the true sky and see where all of these planets are and to follow the movement through the constellations. So this is happening on the day of the convergence, October 14, 15. Here is Virgo, which I'm calling the cosmic womb because the sun is going to be here where it would be actually her womb, and Atlas is going to be really close. But on the 14 and 15, Mars will have moved already into Libra. Mercury also will be leaving, but Venus will already be in the constellation here of Virgo. And what is also beautiful is that Spica is the star that is going to get activated during the convergence. The sun is going to be in Spica at the time of the convergence. Here it is. So Spica and the Sun get together and Atlas is really close to them. And we can see that all of this big activity as we go through this convergence is happening here in this big area of the sky, which is the feminine or the divine mother energy, however you want to call it. So talking about Virgo, now we're going to go into astrology. David prepared some slides about the astrology, but before we go there, because we identify Virgo as being the main area where all of this is happening, if your birthday falls between September 15 and November the 3rd, you're actually Virgo in sidereal astrology. And Virgo, I think, as we're talking about the evolution of astrology, it is the ruler of the harvest. We need to redefine the archetype and the rulers as well. So when we talk about Virgo, we're talking about fertility, and we see what is happening in the sky for us. We talk about gestation and birth. We talk about creation, and it's asking us to embody creation, to embody the energy that is coming from we don't know how far away and how many years ago, to embody all that energy into manifestation. This energy of Virgo is also about growth to maturity and ripen for harvest. So it feels like humanity as a whole is reaching that point of harvest. So we can actually become these galactic beings that we're here to do. We're ready to jump So I feel that's part of the connection to Virgo. Virgo is also the energy of purification and health, of integration, aspiration to perfection. But to me, rather than think of perfection, because it has many connotations to think of perfection, but when we think about higher standards, about constant improvement, and I love the word from Zach, he used the word betterment. So for the betterment of us and the whole planet, I think that's the energy I like to connect to Virgo now. It's also the energy of divine justice. It's connected to the goddess of justice, to the other goddesses like Demeter and Ceres, to nature and plants. That's why I put here, when you mentioned it, I had already put it here. Venus and Ceres would sound more in alignment with being the rulers of Virgo. And I know that Dr. Danny has been suggesting the idea of Venus maybe being a better ruler for it, but I think the two of them actually fit well. The energy of Virgo is also about integrity, not cutting corners, but doing things properly, being responsible, and also sacred abundance. Isn't it a beautiful energy to embody the new earth?
Yeah, just a couple of things on that. In many ways, even though Venus perhaps seems the obvious choice for Virgo, I actually think the Ceres is more appropriate somehow, particularly for those who've shifted from Scorpio to a Virgo, because Ceres has that deep connection with Pluto, with Persephone, with the underworld. So there is a scorpionic element in Ceres too,
Mhm.
whilst being the goddess of the corn. And if you look at the zodiac symbols, the two that are most similar to each other are Virgo and Scorpio. So there's a lot in this shift, which I think is perhaps starting to dawn on many of us that perhaps those with Scorpio placements signed up to that. So at this moment, we could revert back to our natural selves, which is as Earth beings, Earth guardians, connected. So maybe Sarah's is just a little reminder of the Scorpio past that we have. It's like, oh, I remember the days when my daughter has to spend half the year in the underworld, but I don't think that's going to be true anymore.
Right. And I feel that the connection, because the connection to the goddess is the goddess of wheat, the goddess of corn. So this picture is also very appropriate because many different civilizations had the plant of corn at the core of everything they did, for example, in Mesoamerica and even in South America. So I think is the energy of harvest, being the goddess of harvest, is very connected to Virgo. And so we have Mars, which is going to be conjunct Atlas on the 3rd of October. Venus is going to enter Virgo on October the 8th and is going to be conjunct Atlas on November the 3rd. The Sun is going to be in Virgo, conjunct Atlas on the 29th of October, and Mercury is also in Virgo. So there is so much energy. That is the place where everything happens now during this convergence. And I feel that it is telling us that it is the birthing of that new earth and new humanity, is restoring the feminine harmonic field, restoring the harmonic union of masculine and feminine, and getting rid of that part of the masculine that was always distorted and taking it to war and hierarchies and competition and trying to conquer and all of those things we're not going to need anymore if there is a union of masculine and feminine for the highest good of all. A restoration of divine love, and where we connect the mind and the heart in pure balance. Our mind is very important because it's where we have imagination. So we have so much to create with our mind, but it needs the heart as well to do it right. So we are evolving into a way of being in connection and collaboration with Mother Earth. I think this is the symbolism of everything of this convergence happening in Virgo.
Right, so you just alluded to the end of this wave spell that we're recording in, and I just want to put a couple of things into people's awareness. The Mars, sorry, Atlas, as it hits Mars on October the 3rd, is a day of a red spectral skywalker, which is interesting. And the very last day of this wave spell, which I absolutely love this glyph, it's the blue cosmic eagle, reminding us to enter into this. Because whenever there's a day 13 and day 1, there's a starting to merging of the energies as you phase out of the 13th transcendence of the previous wave spell and into the initiation magnetic point of the next one. And so here we have blue cosmic eagle merging into a yellow magnetic warrior. So we enter the warrior with the perspective of the cosmic eagle, which is very higher perspective, not even 5D. A cosmic eagle, I think, is beyond that. It has 5D anchored as its baseline, but is able to access the higher realms, which would give us that ability to be intelligent from beyond the samsaric earthly realms, which in the context of everything that's going on could be an essential component to understand how this Earth experiment fits into the cosmos and how we fit into all of that too, as beings here in this realm, however we see it.
So many things in the pot, but just to summarize, we're receiving a huge infusion of brand new plasma energy. That is what is available to us, and it's for all of you to tune in with your higher self. What is it bringing for you, and how is it helping you walk through this big portal or convergence moment into new Earth? What is going to get upgraded? Is your 13th strand of DNA getting activated? And what are we going to create for the highest good of all?
All right, well, if you didn't have enough coordinates and things to put your attention to and invitations from us to deep dive into even more, now we're going to look at the astrology from the 13 sign perspective. And so um, we've put the 13 sign readout, the chart actually here for the 6th of October. We'll look at another one in a minute, but just really wanting to put into everybody's awareness the major astrological transits. Now, of course, it doesn't really matter whether you use tropical or whether you use 13 sign because the transits still are existing in both. It's the actual layout of where it's happening that's different, and that's what we've been focusing on. But look, this Wavespell of the Warrior kicks off with in the 13 sign what is a full moon in Pisces. That's right up there. Day 2, which is the red lunar Earth gap day. Now, Mercury in Virgo is going to square Pluto in Capricorn. That could be part of the challenge.
It is.
Right.
Yep.
So Pluto is normally very challenging, and in a square with Mercury, it suggests to me that communications could be very challenging, and perhaps even unbelievable, which is why we need the questioning of the warrior to make sense of it. So that's potentially one aspect.
I think that there could be also some kind of information manipulation, information control, power struggles, and that's what we need discernment at that point and use the warrior energy.
Yeah. Okay, so after that Mercury squaring Pluto, then on the day of integration, we also have another challenging astrological aspect in some ways, but it sort of fits in that Pluto in Capricorn is going to go direct. So Pluto, obviously a big mover and shaker in transformation, and here on the day of integration of the Blue Night, Pluto is going to go direct in Capricorn. So that's always a momentous occasion when particularly those outer planets go stationary direct. And as I've already said, the last day of this wave spell is when the self-existing moon starts. So really and truly not an awful lot of major astrological transits, as many other commentators have also said. But what caught my eye is a lot of what we've just been talking about, which is Venus in action, because this is a very Venus goddess Virgo month. And so she's really, really busy this month, which I think is important because I feel there could be messages, Bella, coming in from the goddess as Venus enters Virgo, as we already said on day 3. Of this, and as she enters Virgo, she also sextiles Jupiter in Gemini, which is a harmonious aspect. So when I was looking through the aspects, there were some harmonious ones with Venus, and there was a couple that are a bit more challenging. So we'll just have a quick look at them a second. So on the day of challenge, October the 7th, Venus is still in Leo at that point, but she sextiles Black Moon Lilith in Libra, which is a harmonious aspect. So we could say, perhaps now with the sense of balance, Black Moon Lilith in Libra and Venus in the final stages of Leo, that they're just wanting to balance out the feminine energies. Because Black Moon Lilith sometimes is considered to be the more shadowy aspect of the goddess, but now much restored. And as we've just been talking about, Venus perhaps is the embodiment of the goddess. And so it feels like that's a final conversation just to straighten out any threads that perhaps are lingering on the day of challenge. Perhaps this is in relation to the earth, perhaps with your relation to the earth, because that is the glyph of the day, the red lunar earth. The following day, yes, Venus enters Virgos, and then also sextiles, another minor harmonious aspect, but still important, sextiles Jupiter in Gemini. So we could also see Jupiter and Gemini expanding two differences of opinion, the twins, and that could be a little confusing, but it's in a harmonious aspect. So it might present two choices, and it might be really obvious now which is the choice you're going to make and which is the one that you don't want to make. You have any thoughts on that, Bella? Okay, so day 6, October the 11th, Venus in Virgo then opposes Saturn in Pisces. So now Venus, perhaps moving into her new home, as we've been talking about in Virgo, is staring across the wheel at big old grandfather time now, Saturn, who's still somewhat rebuilding himself in Pisces. And perhaps what Venus is suggesting to Saturn is, hey, it's time for a change. Perhaps we're going to change the notion of time to one that's more in alignment with the goddess, perhaps. Um, could be one understanding. But also because of Neptune and Saturn are so close together, Venus is also going to oppose Neptune just a couple of days later on that day of the blue healing hand. And Neptune more at home in Pisces than Saturn is, and perhaps the conversation there now is with the more spiritual collective Neptune in Pisces with the goddess. So maybe rather than opposition, this is a reconfiguration. Having had that chat with Saturn, it's like, okay, we're moving to a more spiritual kind of time frame situation with the goddess. And here's Neptune bringing the spirituality with it, all within the very unified consciousness field of Pisces. And then to round out really the Wavespell on day 9, on the day of intention, which I think is really important, Venus in Virgo now, of course, is trining both Uranus in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn. So a trine is a big harmonious sequence, and here we've got two of the major, the other two major players in the outer planets. Of course, she's already opposed Neptune, but here in a harmonious trine with Uranus in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn. So Venus is busy, and I think this is all part of the preparation. We can see there the day of the convergence that the goddess is in a harmonious trine with the god of innovation, Uranus, also unpredictability, and many other things, and Pluto, the bastion of really exposing everything here in Capricorn that perhaps in the old time structure, the old mechanisms of the matrix, perhaps now need to be reconfigured into something more Venusian, more goddess, perhaps more Virgo. Do you have any thoughts on any of that, Bella?
Well, I think with the trine to Uranus in Taurus is bringing more of a harmonious revolution that is going to change the way we do things, our connection to the earth, more freedom for all of us, more independence, more sovereignty, which is one of the things that I want to add at the end about things to think about and focus on as we come to the convergence is think of sovereignty because many things are going to be offered as well. The dark side is going out, kicking and screaming, and is going to offer things that will try to take our sovereignty. And so we will need to think about our sovereignty and freedom as we walk through this process as true light warriors. And then the trine with Pluto in Capricorn, I think it's about the transformation, the systems. So on one side, there could be try to control more. The systems could try to control, but also is our chance to change and transform and give it the moment of a whole new way of doing things for all of us and for the planet, of course.
Right, and of course, on the magical number of the goddess, October the 13th, Pluto is going direct in Capricorn, and then the following day, another aspect of the goddess there, Virgo, is in a trine with Pluto in Capricorn. So we could understand that after the reviewing process of Pluto being in retrograde in Capricorn, we've now come to the conclusions about the power structure, top-down hierarchy system that we've been living under, and perhaps concluding that it's not serving us the way that perhaps it was originally designed or even copied into. So I think that that's really positive. It tells me that the goddess is really having a conversation with all of the important beings in the overall picture, including Pluto. It's like, hey, how are we doing with the restructuring that top-down hierarchy? Pluto's like, yeah, we've done the review process. It's now go. We're going to go through Capricorn and start taking apart that structure and replace it. There's something more from the earth up, which would definitely be Virgo. So I think this is a dynamic conversation that is going on with Venus in Virgo and particularly Pluto in Capricorn, but also Neptune and Saturn in Pisces too. All part of the reconfiguration of time. And perhaps in some ways our reality too. Perhaps we're going to return more to an organic based experience, working more with our hands in the earth and less with our hands in chemical vats or whatever else they've been doing to our food supply in the earth. So this really to me feels like it's the restoration of Gaia, the ultimate goddess, which is perhaps why I was getting the intuition about Atlas and Tiamat. Who knows? That's one to investigate later. So let's have a look at the next chart, which is really just more of an easier picture for you all to see here. The things we've just talked about, the full moon in Pisces, and we can also see here really that Venus has just crossed over the South Node, which is also reminding us of how it used to be in the past when we were all fully connected with our energies balanced, but the goddess was much more present. We didn't have a subdued, oppressed feminine. We didn't have an emasculated masculine. We were able to be ourselves with the beauty of planet Earth, of everything that she gives us.
And hopefully it will give us more clarity as well. And look at Ceres is really close to the moon as well in Pisces, which we were talking about, opposite the sun.
Yeah, she's pretty much almost exactly midpoint between Neptune and the moon. So how would we understand Ceres in Pisces, perhaps? This could be about collective abundance, working together to gather the harvest.
Yeah.
Ensuring that there's enough for everybody, that the goddess of the corn ensures that everybody has food. Perhaps even as the goddess of the corn, maybe she's harvesting nettle to make sure that people have got clothes to wear, for example. Or
I think it's more of the spiritual harvest of how many people have done their spiritual work, their inner work, their shadow work for a long time now. I'd say the last 20, 30 years, people have done so much work to get ready for these moments. So I feel that the moment of harvest is here.
Right, so when we're pulling up these charts, we actually do really, really tight orbs, normally just a couple of degrees. So any of the transits here are pretty tight. They're not wide, 10, 8, or anything like that. They're normally we just use 2 and 3 because we like to have the impact points. What I'm seeing here is that Uranus is opposing Juno. So perhaps this could be something maverick, a different type of relationship, a different sense of commitment. Maybe our commitment is to the planet as guardians. Maybe this is going to revolutionize interpersonal relationships and how we commit to something. Maybe Uranus is going to give us a new impetus to commit to a new Earth. Venus in Virgo could be new Earth. Ceres in Virgo could also be new Earth, although she's up in Pisces at the moment. So I feel Ceres in Pisces is asking us to think about working from the ground up as a collective. Yeah. Anything else you want to pick out here, Bella?
I think that's
we see that Pallas Athena is in a slightly loose conjunction with Pluto, and it's 5 degrees, it's a bit much. So that's the overall astrological trajectory. That's it. Here's the Venus trine. We can see very clearly on the left. I put it from both perspectives. I know sometimes for many of you, and sometimes myself too, it's also good to have a look at where the asteroids are in these trines. But we can see on the left a very clear trine that is taking
a comet.
Yeah. And what?
A comet. A kite.
A kite, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, so we've talked about these before. We had a number of those on the last show, right? In fact, I hadn't looked at that. So we have the trine here, as we've said before, with Uranus and Venus and Pluto. These are in trines. And we also have this kite forming here. So the bow is being pulled back on Neptune and is really pointing to guess who? Venus.
Dissolving the veil so that the sacred feminine is restored in Virgo.
Yeah. It's a little confusing with the way the signs are laid out because it looks like Pluto's up in Aquarius, but actually you can see it's here in Capricorn. So really and truly, all roads lead to the goddess.
Pretty much.
That's really what we're being told, I think. So have a feel into that. There's not so much really that we want to comment on that. Those are the major aspects. But the Venus trine, I think, is really on the 13th of October is the final sign off from the goddess. Okay, everything's set. You've got the harmonious aspects. we're going to get into it now. Everything's set for the convergence, and it's chocks away time. We're about to take off. I
Good.
hope.
So I just had one more on the astrology. I talked about this a little bit on the last in the last show. So on the left we have the Golden Convergence Day, which is on the 14th of October, and on the right we have Declaration of Independence of the 4th of July of 1776. And so there are so many correlations, and one of the things I showed is how Pluto is now going station direct in Capricorn, and is next to Pallas Athena, which is the warrior, the female warrior energy. And that is also part of what was here. Pluto was also at 0. It was in retro, but it's now stationary direct for the convergence. Chiron was also in Pisces, and we can see it here on the right also in Pisces. We had Uranus in Taurus, and it's also here, Uranus in Taurus. And we had Jupiter in Gemini, and here it is also Jupiter in Gemini. And so what I see here as the big difference, and we're talking about almost 250 years, so it feels like the creation of a new republic, of a new world, of a whole new way. And we know that what happens in the US is pretty much a kind of a spread out to the rest of the world. So there is that energy of beginning of something new, a new way of doing a republic, country, or however we're going to organize ourselves. And what I see here is that in the Declaration of Independence time in 1776, in Virgo, we had Neptune and Saturn. And so they were the ones deciding how to rule time, how to rule the feminine, how to put lots of illusions around that energy. But now in the Golden Convergence, we have the benefic energy of Venus, and we have the sun there, and also Mercury. So I feel that the energy and the heavens have already displayed quite a lot of energy for us to tune into. And so at the time of the Golden Convergence, we also talked about how Atlas is going to be around here, really close to the sun in the area of the Virgo constellation. The other thing I added here is here at the top is a link if you guys want to learn to calculate your sidereal astrology or look at the chart for the day. Here is the link, Mastering the Zodiac, Sidereal Birth Chart Calculator, or you can go and buy their software, which is called True Sky.
Yeah, if you go to this website, you'll be able to get a basic readout. It's not quite as detailed as this, but you'll get a feel for it. But absolutely want to put a shout out to our brother Afin Commenti for developing this software. It's called True Sky, and I'll put the link in the notes below. It's been a life changer for us because now we can do this. Yeah, I think many of you have been following us know that we were struggling with the software, but this software has now given us this opportunity. So really recommending that, and also wanting to thank the brother Afin for this too.
One more thing before we finish the astrology is, yes, we have the kite formation here pointing at Venus, and we now know how important all of these other points are. But there is also a six-pointed star if we think about that this is a triangle here, a connection. So it's like a Merkaba shape, which balances the masculine and feminine, the Star of David. So we have that formation in the sky for the Golden Convergence as well going on.
Also, just alluding to what I just shared about it's a bit easy to see with it pointing this way. So if this is the bow being pulled back, really and truly, I mean, it's more perhaps, what are we looking at here? More Neptune than Saturn, but at a 3-degree orb, we can say that Neptune and Saturn are working as a team. And so if I combine those energies in Pisces, it feels to me very much like the two brothers, perhaps, that we've talked about before, coming to an agreement that, hey, our time is over. We're now going to let this energy go. We've decided that spiritual structure is the way forward, not manipulative structure. Saturn has relaxed now. He said, okay, my time is over. I'm happy to hand the reins over to the new crowd, the new wave, the new generation, which by the looks of where the arrow is pointing here is Venus in Virgo. So hopefully we've painted that picture strongly enough across the course of this episode, because I think we've said it about 50 different ways. And to round out here, of course, there's always the plant, which is still very much Virgo energy. And it's one that's been featured before, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much. But this is an incredibly powerful plant. I pulled out the yellow version of Achalae millefolium, otherwise known as yarrow. We have it growing in the garden. It grows in many, many places. This is an incredibly powerful plant, very powerful medicinal plant, but I'm just going to give some other qualities that allowed it to be selected for this Wavespell, because it's very much the plant associated with the warrior hero Achilles, hence Achille. That's its millefolium is the plant of 1,000 leaves, but the Achille relates to Achilles. And the reason is, very briefly, that legend has it that this plant sprang up from a drop of rust on Achilles' armor whilst he was fighting one of his many battles with his men. And because he'd been trained by the centaur Chiron, he suddenly realized that he could use this plant to heal his troops. And what yarrow is really good at is staunching blood flow. It's very efficient, very quick, very, very good for nosebleeds. That's one of the things that it's known for. But if we think about this, this can also be used for binding. Certainly, in healing practices, it can be used for etheric binding of etheric rips in the field, which will not just stop bleeding, but really stop energetic leakage, and certainly stop other things from entering into the field to mess with it, or maybe do things that we wouldn't want. So I've said it's already good for nosebleeds. It's very, very good with throat issues. It can be used as a gargle. It can pretty much be used for all ENT or sinus related issues. But in the way that me and Bella work, this is a plant that we associate with the throat chakra because of these abilities, but it's very, very efficient. And the magic of yarrow is intentional restraint. So we can think about that in terms of the efficiency of our throat chakra. Are we being efficient with the words that we use? Are we being dramatic and creating lots of dramas with the words that we use? And the other thing is that perhaps more than the other chakras, the rear throat chakra is our psychic chakra. We have rear chakras to all of our chakras, but certainly from my perspective, this is the one that I feel most familiar with. Maybe others out there have a different opinion. But if we understand that all of our psychic intuitions, our energetic frequency intuitions, perhaps more than psychic, they're all received here into the throat to be held, either to be reflected through speech or put down to the heart for further integration, or sent up to the third eye for further research. And so all energetic inputs all come through the rear throat chakra. And we can work with yarrow as a guardian, a warrior guardian of both our energetic inputs and our speech. So that is yarrow. I would definitely recommend working with yarrow and mullein in tandem. There is a lot of mullein out at the moment. It's very much in its pomp. And yarrow should be too if you don't have deer eating it. So you can go out to many common fields. It grows in the garden, and you can use particularly the leaves and the roots of yarrow to do all of these things. And perhaps, yeah, maybe this is a good time as we enter into the winter in the Northern Hemisphere, just to get those medicinal preventative medicines in, particularly the yarrows, the nettles, the elders, and maybe even some echinacea along the way, just to make sure that we are fit and strong like a good warrior should be.
Good. And so we've come to the end with some presents, which is what are the tips that I think that could be useful? First of all is tune in with yourself. What do you feel you should be doing over the Golden Convergence on October 14 and 15? And these are some of the tips that I've laid out. But as I said, follow your heart first of all. So one of the things that I'm suggesting is sound healing. We talked about the importance of sound and to bring some energy. Some of these sounds could actually realign us. Mantras, if you don't know any mantras, or if you may have a mantra that is powerful for you, but if you don't know any mantras, you could just use the I am, or I am light, I am love, and just focus on that and create the sound. The second one is obviously to be in connection with nature or go to sacred sites, somewhere that you feel there is a good geomancy, there is good energy that will support the process. Another one could be a heart meditation. There are many heart meditations there. Something that brings you into heart coherence. Something that it could be that you listen to a mantra or you just try to go into your heart and do that connection. The next one is breathing. If you just sit for 20 minutes, half an hour, however much time you have, just to focus on breathing consciously and trying to connect to the earth and to the process of what is going on, that will bring you into the present moment. You could also do offerings to nature or plant seeds. focus on forgiveness. If you feel that you have still something there that is blocking you or bringing memories and keeping you in the past, make sure you go through your process of forgiveness and compassion. One of the things that is very simple and powerful is Ho'oponopono. You could just do some Ho'oponopono to the memories and situations that come to your mind for final release. You want to try to reach a state of bliss. If you don't know how to do that, just do contemplation of nature, of flowers, of animals, of seeing children play, something that brings you to that state of bliss. There is a very powerful meditation that we have done in our tribe, and many people do it on the day out of time, and it's the Rainbow Bridge meditation, because it connects us to the heart of the earth. So what you do is you do a meditation where you connect your heart to the heart of the planet, and you radiate a rainbow bridge energy around the planet and around yourself. That is also really powerful. And I'm not saying you have to do all of those things. You can choose one of them or something that resonates with you. Also, you want to get into the vibration of gratitude, of peace, of appreciation, and above all, harmony. Harmony is what we want to infuse this golden convergence and going into the next, into the other part of our evolution. Something really powerful is just to be in a space of joy and being playful, dancing. And maybe that to me works really well. That is what always raises my vibration. So if you feel like you want to dance with some friends or something that will connect you on that in that moment. Once you do and you reach that state of bliss, happiness, joy, you want to send that energy and love around the planet. Because what we're doing here is we're becoming that harmonic resonance. We want to radiate coherent light and embody divine love. Because what we're doing here is becoming ambassadors of the heart that lead the future for us and for our children and for the earth. And as Zach said, enjoy the fireworks and we'll see you on the other side of that, is that what he said to us. And I won't say the same. Just focus yourself as being a flower with 13 petals that just open, because that is what we're doing. We're coming to the moment of harvest and blossoming, and we could be like a flower with 13 petals, but what that is doing is realigning with the 13 strand of DNA, with the 13 number of the Wavespell, the frequency, the 13 moons. Everything we've been doing is about coming to this point of alignment, coherence, and harmony.
Beautiful. So is that the last slide?
That's the last slide.
Okay. So
if you made it to this point, congratulations.
So just to put something out that we don't normally share on the Quantum Compass, but it seems appropriate. You know, there are many of you who follow our videos and our work on YouTube and have done for actually quite a while. And many of you have already migrated across to the QPW quantumplanet.world website. But I just want to put out an invitation again for maybe those of you who've been sort of on the fence for a while, or maybe, oh, like there's another aspect to the work that we do, because we have regular live calls. We do deep dives into many of the topics. We also have other parallel tracks that we're looking at the 13 moons. So if you want to be part of a community of very, how to say, not even free thinking people, but very expansive thinking people, a supportive community all over the world. We have tribe in New Zealand and Australia, all the way across the world to Hawaii on the other side. And of course, many brothers and sisters in North America, and of course in the Blessed Isles of Britain and across Europe too. So, you know, we always love to welcome new people into our tribe. If you love the material that we share, this is what our community is all about: fusing astrology, cosmology, Mayan time, and plants into something that makes sense using the 13 days, the 1320 calendar.
More than anything, expanding consciousness.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention that we also do private sessions. We do Activating the Grail. Davyd does personal sessions with people to work with the energetics, the astral clearings, and that.
Yeah, in fact, let's just share that for a second. So yeah, I mean, we both have our different services. We combine them into an Activating the Grail Within package, which really is a combination of energy field clearing work by myself using quantum principles, using quantum plant intelligence, working with the angelic realms and many other galactic beings to remove all of the things in your field that don't really serve you. And then the second session is with Bella, each one 2 hours long, and she then goes into any emotional traumas that are being released, that need to be sort of transmuted. And then to finish off the session, if you never had it done, she will read your Mayan oracle from the dream spell for you and give you your Mayan glyph activation, which, speaking from experience, really allows you to step into your galactic essence, which when combined with the shift in the 13 sign sidereal astrology is a bit like a new you, which is kind of nice. So, we also do one-to-one sessions for mentoring and many other things too. So please do check that out on the services part of the quantumplanet.world website. And if you're new to the website, all you have to do is just join. It takes like 20 seconds with an email address and your name. And that's it. You'll receive the newsletters. And from there, you can sign into some of the free groups where we do live calls, like the We the Cosmic Humans group, which is really our vision of the future. We, the Cosmic Humans, are deciding how we are going to conduct ourselves moving forwards in the new reality in cooperation and co-creation with our beloved Mother Earth, of course, the wonderful Gaia.
Yes, and pay attention for the new mini series we're going to start on sovereignty. So the next part after the convergence is for us to activate our DNA fully and to step into our sovereignty. So this is it from us. I hope that we gave you enough points of reference, enough to navigate this very important moment. And the idea and the invitation is just to walk through it fearlessly, with grace, welcoming change in our hearts and welcoming harmony in our lives, in our daily lives from now on.
Right, and maybe as a final thought, also, many of you watching this have probably done years and years of inner work and shadow work and spiritual work, but even at this last moment, there could still be soulful stuff that still needs resolution. Perhaps you've got slime, need to do a little detox. Personally, I'm also going to do this. I think Bella's also looking to detox out any last bits. Just want to highlight the really critical plants: dandelion for the heavy metals, horsetail for the graphene and the bioweapons, and wormwood for the parasitic energies and entities that abound in our world. All very Virgo, all very much of the goddess, all very much of healing of the highest aspects of the female serpent lineages. But most of all, they're getting rid of the detritus, shadow, and density from the field. So maybe do that in the next couple of weeks. And if anything's coming up for you, don't try and dodge it. Bring it into your awareness and try to transmute it, because it's coming up for a reason and it's for your own benefit. So just some final hints and tips there. So thank you, everybody, for this slightly longer edition today of the Quantum Compass. We do perceive that this is the most important wave spell, perhaps, of our existences here in the earthly realm for quite some time. So definitely suggest paying daily attention to what is going on. Wherever your attention goes, your energy flows. So make sure that where it goes is somewhere good and somewhere expansive.
And in the words of Zach, enjoy the fireworks in awe and feeling blessed and feeling really happy that we've come to this point. It could be the moment that we've planned for incarnations. And now we're here, we're ready to go, to walk through it all together. So congratulations, everybody.
In Lakesh, I am another you. We'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.